I'm gonna retire from boxing before I let boxing retire me.
That I'm not comfortable with. You know, I had a great career. You know, I've done some tremendous things in the sport of boxing. I made a lot of history. You know, what can I not be proud of if I walked away from the sport right now? You know, I don't have no regrets because everything that I did it my way. So if I was to walk away from the sport right now.
Terence Crawford has officially stepped away from boxing. After months of tension, legal battles, and a very public feud with the WBC, the undefeated, undisputed pound-for-pound king has walked away from the sport that turned him into a living legend.
Retire, bud. Retire, bud. It's over. You ain't got nothing else to prove. Let's go fishing, bud. Let's go fishing, bud. Retire. It's over with.
The same man who ruled 3 weight divisions, unified titles, and carried himself with quiet dominance is now done. Gone. Retired. Stripped of his title. Accused of breaking contracts and publicly called out by legends. Crawford says the sport he gave everything to, the sport he bled for, finally broke him. So what really happened behind the scenes? What pushed one of the greatest fighters of our generation to drop his gloves? Not in defeat, but in defiance. This is the real story behind Terence Crawford's shocking exit. A story of betrayal, power, and principle that has shaken the boxing world.
I always said that I'm gonna retire on my own terms, and I'm gonna feel good because everything that I did it my way.
It all started with one stunning announcement. On December 3rd, 2025, the WBC officially stripped Terence Crawford of his World Super Middleweight title, a decision that sent shockwaves through the boxing world. The reason? Crawford allegedly refused to pay sanctioning fees for his last 2 fights, including his blockbuster $50 million showdown with Canelo Alvarez. One move that changed everything.
He never paid the sanction fees for that fight. His next fight was Canelo Alvarez. He fought for the WBC title as well as the other 3 organizations, and he won the WBC title and the undisputed. He became undisputed, and he did not pay the sanction fees.
He never paid the sanctioning fees for that fight. His next opponent? Canelo Alvarez. Crawford fought not just for the WBC title, but for the other 3 major organizations, and won. He became undisputed. Yet, he still didn't pay the sanctioning fees. Just like that, the man who conquered the sport lost his crown. His undisputed status vanished. His title revoked. And his relationship with the WBC? Shattered beyond repair. But as dramatic as it sounds, insiders say this was no sudden fallout. It had been brewing for months.
He did not comply with the rules. Then he moves up to super middle and makes the fight of the century, beats Canelo, makes $50 million or around that. The WBC absolutely is not going to charge 3% of such an amount. We made a very clear 0.6%, which is 300.
Behind the headlines, Crawford's frustration had been building for years, simmering beneath the surface through broken promises, shady politics, and a sport that often punishes the very fighters who make it great. He wasn't just battling opponents in the ring anymore. He was battling the system itself. Even before the WBC drama erupted, Crawford was already deep in another fight. A courtroom battle against one of boxing's most powerful figures, promoter Bob Arum and his company, Top Rank. In his explosive complaint, Crawford accused Arum of breach of contract, fraud, and even racial bias.
I wanted to give a real quick snippet of what I just found out. So Terence Crawford just filed a lawsuit against Top Rank and Bob Arum, claiming racism and bias against
According to Crawford, Top Rank had promised to secure a unification fight with Errol Spence Jr. The fight fans had been begging for, but failed to deliver. Crawford claimed that in 2019 he had an agreement. If Arum didn't make a good faith offer to Spence by the end of 2020, he'd be paid $900,000. That payment, Crawford says, never came. Instead, he was left in limbo, frozen out of the biggest fight of his career. And it didn't stop there. Crawford alleges that Arum continued making racist and bigoted statements, damaging the reputations of black boxers, including himself.
Terence Crawford is actually asking for $10 million in damages. He's basically stating that none of the fighters want to speak up. They don't want to say anything.
Arum hit back hard, calling the lawsuit frivolous and reckless. He said, Crawford's accusations are vile. I've spent my entire career promoting fighters of color. This lawsuit is nothing but a malicious extortion attempt. The legal war marked the beginning of the end, a line drawn in the sand between fighter and promoter. Crawford left Top Rank shortly after, vowing to go independent and build his legacy on his own terms. But instead of freedom, he walked straight into another storm when the WBC stripped him of his title. And Crawford didn't stay silent. He went nuclear over the
sanction fees, right? Then he gonna tell me I ain't even apologize. Like, who the fuck you think I am? Boy, you better slap your fucking self. Ain't paying your ass shit.
In a video that shook social media, Crawford torched the WBC, calling their belts meaningless trophies and accusing the organization of greed. His words were raw, emotional, and loaded with years of bottled-up resentment. You got the green belt, which doesn't mean __. The real belt is the ring belt. You can take the __ belt. It's just a trophy anyway. That one line sent shockwaves through the boxing world.
You, the WBC, and you got the fucking green belt, which don't mean fucking shit. The fucking real belt is the ring belt, which is free, motherfucker. What are you talking about? You want me to pay you more than the other sanction bodies because you feel like you better than them. How in the world all the sanction bodies agreed to the same amount, but you sit your motherfucking ass up there and say that I need to apologize?
You, the WBC, you got the green belt, which doesn't mean __. The real belt is the ring belt, which is free __. Who are you talking about? You want me to pay more than the other sanctioning bodies because you feel you're better than them? How in the world did all the other sanctioning bodies agree to the same amount, but you sit up there and say I need to apologize to you? Some fans hailed Crawford as a hero, finally exposing the hypocrisy of boxing's governing bodies. Others saw it as a meltdown, a legend tarnishing his own legacy. Even Errol Spence Jr., Crawford's longtime rival, weighed in.
It makes sense, but I mean, I think he should have talked about it, before, because now he's talking about it when he don't need the WBC anymore. And he should have talked about it, way back when I said something, he should have spoke up and said something about it too, so I don't know, man. It is what it is.
Makes sense, said Spence. But now he's talking when he doesn't need the WBC anymore. He should have said this back when it mattered. To some, Crawford sounded bitter. To others, he sounded free. One thing was certain. He was no longer playing by boxing's rules. Then came the new generation. Rising star Keishan Davis didn't hold back in defending Crawford.
I always say I never understand why we become champion have to pay for a belt. Keep that
Yeah.
Keep it. I'm not gonna work 14, 15 years for me to pay for something I worked for. When I went to the Olympics, did I pay for that damn medal? No.
Echoing what many fighters have whispered for years, Keishan Davis said, I never understood why we become champions and have to pay for a belt. Keep that. When I went to the Olympics, did I pay for that medal? No. So keep the belt. I agree with Terence. Davis's words struck a nerve across the sport, calling out what he saw as hypocrisy. Fighters spending years fighting their way to the top, only to be told they owe money for something they own.
If I walk into this arena without this belt, is these people still gonna show up? Yes. So keep the belt. You're not gonna take my money. With all due respect, you know what I'm saying? I just feel like, I agree with Terence, you know what I'm saying? But I just don't agree with paying for belts. That's why, for all the sanctioning bodies, you know what I'm saying? And I told this to the one that I was under, the WBO. I told him to. I said, I don't really believe in that. And he explained why. And I was like, okay, but I still don't agree with it. You know what I mean? So like, I'm always gonna be like for not paying for belt, because what the fuck are we paying?
He said what so many others were afraid to. If I walk into this arena without this belt, people will still show up. So why the hell should I pay for it? For younger fighters, Crawford wasn't walking away, he was standing up. Doing what no one else dared. Challenging boxing's sacred institutions head-on. But the establishment wasn't going to stay quiet. WBC President Mauricio Sulian took the diplomatic route, but the tension was palpable.